So, right then guys, by the way, at any point anyone's got any questions at all, just shout them out. I'm more than happy to answer them. For obvious reasons, if you do have a question, don't stick up your hand to ask it. You can probably tell why. I had a school teacher come down about 2 weeks ago, stuck his hand up to ask a question, punched the ceiling and broke his hand. So if you do have a question, please save your hands and just shout out any questions you might have. Also saves me filling out a lot of paperwork. Apart from that, have any of you done any prior research on Speedwell? Know anything about it? Or stumbled across it kind of thing?
Nothing.
Fair enough. Right, I'll go over everything really. What you guys are currently travelling down at the moment is actually the remains of an 18th century lead mine. Started all the way back in 1771 and ended in 1791. Only lasted for 20 years and that's because it was a massive financial disaster. Back then, the boss put £12,000 into the mine and he got £3,000 out. In today's money, that's about a loss of £8.5 million. And that explains the extortionate ticket prices upstairs. They're still trying to make their money back, you know, tell my boss I said that. Now, as we travel down the tunnel, we're coming up to the first of 3 of the veins of lead the mine has found. First one is called the Little Winster vein. It was named after the 7-year-old boy that dug it out. He'd been working down here for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He had Sunday off for church. Lucky him. He worked with a pickaxe in one hand, shovel in the other, bucket around his neck and a candle in his mouth. And he worked in here, on your guy's left-hand side. Now, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week in there. Now, the candle in his mouth wasn't made out of the average candle wax you'd find at home. It's made out of burnt down animal fats and fire ash. It's called tallow. Now, this candle in his mouth that he had while he was mining away, he'd accidentally ingest it every now and again. It actually rot away at his gums, his lungs, his teeth and his stomach lining. It killed little Winster in that hole 2 days before his 14th birthday. Is everyone enjoying the cheerful tour so far? Yeah. They put boats down here, like I said. Boats are a lot smaller than this one and made of wood. Now, they put the boats down here to carry all of the rock up and down the tunnel, or anything the men may need. But they realised all the men and children, they were busy mining. They couldn't push the boats back and forth. So they got their wives to work down here with them, pushing the boats back and forth down the tunnel, doing a technique called legging. I'm guessing most of you have heard of the term legging it, like running away. Now that originates from Speedwell, it comes from here, which is actually really cool. But the technique itself was stolen from people on canal boats. Anyway, it goes as follows. The health and safety bloke didn't like me doing this, so it never happened. But the women who get to the front of the boat, backs pressed against it, feet pressed against the ceiling, pushing the boats backwards and forwards like so. Having that hole is obnoxiously small, so small in fact it piqued the interest of me and the other tour guides. We recently went in there, measured it up, did the maths. We were startled to find out it's about the same size as your average London flat. We realised very quickly you're not going to fit anyone in there. The miners also realised this, so went back to their boss and asked him if they could continue to dig. And he said no! You're wasting my time to find lead. That's exactly what they did. There's a vein of lead on your guys left in the next 2 seconds. It's called the Poor Man's Vein. It's also home to Derbyshire's smallest and only beach. Slow tide at the moment. Half a bucket's worth of lead was found and they're very disappointed. They continue to dig directly behind me, where there is quite literally a bright white light at the end of the tunnel. No, that is not your impending doom, that is Speedwell Cavern itself. We're going to hop off in there, I'm going to show you all around. At the very end, I need to secure the boat to make sure it's safe for everyone to get off, just kind of bear with really. But before we hop off the boat, has anyone got any questions so far while we're in this part of the tunnel?
Was the tunnel flooded when it was being dug? So they were digging in water, or did it flood afterwards?
So initially it was completely dry until the miners hit, you know where the bricked archway was. When they dug up to the surface from that point, it allowed the water to get into the tunnel itself. Then they had to use boats, but they were still mining in the water itself.
So originally they were blasting and then running back to the halfway hatch.
In the water, yeah. Which is, pretty horrific. But yeah, so at the start they weren't working in any water at all, like any conventional mine, and then they had to after the long cliff. So yeah.
Why did it fail? Was it just because there just wasn't enough?
Basically, there's hardly any lead at all. I mean, they were trying to find an abundance of lead. They were trying to get a ridiculous amount out. I mean, just for reference, at the time, there was over 2,800 mines in Derbyshire. Not all of them lead, but quite a few of them. The other lead mines in Derbyshire were getting about a ton of lead out a week. This place got half a ton of lead out in 20 years. So hardly anything at all. Basically, by the time they started finding big veins of lead itself, they were finding lead abroad in places like South Africa and places like that. But all of the lead they were finding from places like South Africa was about 3% pure. In the UK, the lead that was coming out of here was about 1.2% pure, which is hardly anything compared to stuff they could get abroad. And abroad, it was a lot cheaper to mine it out. They didn't pay people as much, so they basically imported it, and it was cheaper to do that. So that was kind of the death of the sort of lead industry. Yeah. Kind of the same thing what happened with coal and steel and stuff like that. Over 250 million years ago. Now you can actually see where the miners went straight away after we broke in. We went straight up. Those are behind the two boulders here. We've got complicated down there. So that is a tour guide going up a ladder in the 14 miles, but yeah, that's what it's like when it's flooding. There's cracks in the rocks that lead all the way up to the surface. All the water, so you know the Winnets Pass, big mountain range inside the road, that acts like a massive funnel. All the water will run off the hillsides, go through the cracks in the rocks and come straight down here. So come out to a farmer's field, there's a way through there. Very top of the Winnets Pass, left-hand side, first farmer's field, go after there. Mainly look like the same thing, it's easier, but you can get through all ways. Very dedicated. Yeah, this story wasn't my talk. To get from London, it took about 5.5 hours to get here. Very, very sort of south end of London. Did literally bring it, think it was peak hour, and then we would go home straight after that. That's 11 hours of driving. Some local ambitions we should stop. Anyway, sorry, I got completely distracted. Now, on the way back, guys, really, you have one of two options. Option one, I'll tell you about the very, very boring geology. You're in a nervous disposition, you don't want to hear the ghost story, get off the boat now. No, fair enough, so it goes as follows. Basically, back in the day, 200 years ago, the miners drank in the pub I mentioned earlier, down in Castleton. It's ye old next head, it's a halfway house. Anyway, everyone drank in there at the time, everybody knew everyone in that pub. So one day, a couple entered the pub no one had ever seen before. This is very unusual, until they started speaking to the bar staff, and everyone realised they definitely weren't from round here. They had distinct Scottish accents. No one from round here at the time had ever heard a Scottish accent before, so when it's brought the couple to their pub. The couple themselves were very secretive. They didn't like telling the three miners not drinking in there that night anything. So later on in the night, they ended up very drunk. Until they ended up drunk, sat down, and they told the miners something very crucial. The very next day, what they were going to do is take their money and ride their horse through the Winnets Pass. They just got married locally. Now they did this because back home in Scotland their families wouldn't let them, so they came to England to do so. They got married, had a lot of money on them, and the very next day they didn't need to stick around. So what they were going to do is take their remaining money, ride their horse through the Winnets Pass, and go home the next day. The three miners saw a great opportunity to earn a bit of cash. That night they went and hid in the Winnets Pass. Waited until morning, like scheduled. The couple rode up on that horse. Halfway through, were ambushed by the three miners. The miners demanded the money and the horse from the couple. Now the couple refused. Subsequently, they were thrown off that horse and beaten up. The miners took the money and the horse down to Speedwell with them, where they thought they got away with it, until they heard the woman screaming, running down the Winnets Pass. She was demanding the money and the horse back. The miners panicked and didn't know what to do, so they dragged her down here with her husband and killed both of them. Threw the bodies into the entrance to the 14 miles of cave systems. After that, thought nothing of it. So one by one, the three miners died mysteriously. First miner died down here. He drowned in the water. Second miner died above ground in the Winnets Pass because of a rock fall. The third and final miner died in the pub. There's a piano fell on him. Think I'm joking, turned him into A flat minor. Yeah.